Welcome. I'm so happy to talk to you today and to just hear your stories. Maybe first we can start where you just introduce yourself, introduce your family, and we'll go from there.
Hey, I'm Susan.
And Paul.
And we have a family with 4 kids. We have one daughter who was born to us, and the 3 kids that were adopted. So we call them that. Hosanna was homemade, and the other 3 were chosen. And they 20, 18,
17.
17. So we've got a house of teenagers.
And Jubilee is our very special needs child who is blind and on the autism spectrum.
Okay, that's maybe actually a good first question to explore. Like that term special needs is often used, and for me as a professional coming from professional background is kind of, bordering off a group. Or is that, what do you feel when you use that term? Do you use that term a lot? Do you think of your daughter? Do you think of Jubilee in that term?
That probably would be the most common term that we use. We just say she has special needs. I think some people tend to, in the special needs world, tend to take offense to words like handicapped or disabilities, or, and for us,
I don't think that offends us, but I think special needs is actually a beautiful term.
So you wouldn't say it's degrading them in any kind of, or your daughter in any kind of way?
I think it's actually exalting them because they have something special about them that we want to accommodate and want to love her in.
That's great. So what would you say is something special that Jubilee has and brings that you love about her?
She is, she's just a connector. She just loves to connect people. She's a hugger, so she has never met a stranger. She just loves she loves people. And she's just willing to try anything.
And she's happy all the time. She loves to go on swings and down slides and on zip lines, even though she's blind and doesn't necessarily understand the physics or physical properties, physics of the whole thing.
So even though she doesn't see it, she goes on zip lines.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not scared.
No, she's happy. She's flapping her arms like autistic kids do.
Wow. Jubilee is my partner when we go to amusement parks. She's my buddy for roller coasters.
She likes them better than I do.
That's great. That's awesome. So she's quite adventurous, you would say.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Would you say that a lot of people around her have met her that way, like know her, like outside your family circle, would describe her as adventurous, would describe her as someone who loves to, meet strangers or meet people? Is that how people would describe her?
That's a good question. I think it depends on the situation. She, in new circumstances, she tends to be very on alert because she doesn't know what's going to happen. So with new people or new in an unfamiliar environment, she actually looks very shy. She seems to be very, reserved. So until she warms up, then people will see the real side of who she is.
yeah, that's true. But once she knows the classroom and the teachers, once she knows the people at whatever gathering we're at, she'll be the lovey-dovey, hugging, let's go have some fun person.
Great. So what are things that help her to kind of get to know, like you said, like once she knows the room, once she knows where she's at, what is things that you guys do to help her, and what can people do to help her?
Yeah, I think she's, because she doesn't have all of the visual cues, if people know to just, I'll use an example, meeting a new person.
Yeah.
To be able to say, hi, Jubilee, I'm Susan, and I love that you're, playing with the ball or something. So identifying yourself using her name, so she knows that they're talking to her, and then commenting on something that she can relate to. You're playing with the ball, or, oh, I love your,
Ponytails or whatever.
Ponytails, yeah, something that she knows. So what's helpful is to just make sure she knows whatever you're explaining the new that's coming into her environment.
The other thing that she does, especially like in our home, when people come over, if she can hug them and put her head into their chest or on next to their head, and that she knows that we know they're safe, we're telling her they're safe, they're lovely, they're wonderful, she'll warm up really fast.
Yeah. So it's like once she knows, oh, my parents think these people are great, I'll be good. And I'll just go ahead and hug them into my family and my big circle. So would you say she has a big circle of friends?
Probably not in the traditional sense. She doesn't have friends that she, gets together with and they have play dates or anything like that. But she's friendly with everyone.
Yeah.
And she didn't used to even know maybe the names of people in her classroom years ago, a decade ago, but now she knows the names, she knows the sounds they make. We can talk to her about them, and some only once in a while that they're not good. They're not good to her, so she's scared of them. Otherwise, she loves talking about her friends, but not friends in terms of communication so much and everything.
So you said that Jubilee was one of your chosen children. How old was she when she came into your family?
She was 3, just over 3.
From India.
So what was your expectation at that point in regards to like life, friendship, family? Was it any different than what you are experiencing now?
We had a friend who worked with the visually impaired community, and she said, these, it's amazing all the ways that people who are visually impaired can adapt, and they do all, the stuff that a typically developing kid would do. And so she was great in encouraging us and giving us some tips on what to expect or how to help Jubilee. I think the autism piece threw things for a loop, because just her processing and relating to people and where there would be some sensory issues, those were heightened very much so that just kind of changed the way she would experience new things or situations or learning even. So our expectations initially were, she's just gonna jump in, we'll help her to adapt and she'll make friends and go along with with things. The autism piece, definitely, we were unprepared for all of the implications of that.
And you mix the autism with the visual impairment with orphanage living for 3 years, and she's very developmentally delayed also.
Yeah. So you were prepared or did know more about living in an orphanage and having a visual impairment, the autism not so much being known to you in the beginning. So yeah, that did bring a surprise, and then some needed adaptations of expectations maybe.
That there's a great big community of families that have autism in them, and so there's resources, and then each one of the kids is individual. So in terms of like, how do you ever get prepared for for an individual who's going to have their own quirks? Get prepared to be flexible and stretch.
Yeah, it's this thing of like, even the child with special needs, of course, doesn't exist, right? They're all individual, just as we are all individuals, and there's no such thing as the special needs. So that's a great one to already debunk, or to be like, no, that's not there. And then to expect like, oh wait, there's a whole different community, because I guess you weren't prepared for that necessarily too, right?
No, there wasn't much that we knew about that.
It's a pretty tight-knit group of people, because we all have a special child that we'd love to learn from each other that way.
Yeah.
Yes. So would you say that has actually brought closer friendship with these people, because you share something that's so unique that maybe other people can't relate to?
For sure. I think I know we started a group for parents of special needs kids through the church. The first time we all met together, it was like this big emotional, oh, there's all these people that get me. Like,
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
are all in the same boat. The scenarios are different, but just there was not a need to explain a lot. There was just an understanding of, yeah, you know, your life runs a little bit differently. That there's just a constant, you're constantly adapting, and that there are things that have been put on hold or things that look different than what you expected, and we're all in this together. Like, there was just definitely
or examples that they can give and say, oh, I was mortified for a little bit when I went to the store and my boy had a meltdown, but they know they can be safe to say that in that group, and everybody's going to say, yeah, I've been there. Hang in there. It won't always be that way. Whatever.
Yeah, like, just, and to have that kind of friendship where there's understanding and there's no judgment. You know, like, I am so for you, and you know, it's good. It's going to be good.
Yeah, that's so good. And that's what we all need, right? In friendship, is that we know that that we are welcome the way we are, that there won't be judgment of how we behave or what we struggle with or what we, you know, run up against. So you would say that there is judgment. Do you experience that in, you know, different situations? Have you experienced that with people? And what would you say to people where that maybe have a tendency to judge?
I'll start. She is with Jubilee a lot more than I am out in public, but I haven't run into that I can remember judgment, but a whole lot of curiosity. Kids staring at her and running to me and saying, why does she have a cane? Or why aren't her eyes open and she's walking? Or adults taking the second, third glance, trying to figure out what is she doing when she's doing this or whatever. But that's, we get used to that real fast.
Yeah, and I honestly, I would say that I haven't, in anything I can recall, judgment. Definitely a curiosity, and kids are great at being able to say, you know, they just come right out and voice their questions.
Yes. Yeah, that's true, right? But I've heard some of my friends and parents where sometimes the parent of the child that is curious is kind of like, oh no, don't say that. What would you say to those parents?
Just reassuring, hey, it's okay. You know, when the kids are asking, hey, it's okay. Yeah, that's kind of different, isn't it? And so what, like, my usual line is, well, you know, her eyes don't work right, so she just keeps her eyes closed, but she uses her cane so that she doesn't run into stuff. She can tell so she doesn't trip on anything, because kids understand that better.
She's very gracious with them, and they walk away, and the parents hopefully don't feel any guilt at all, but gives them a tool to use when people are curious about something that's different.
Yeah, and just ask the question if it's different, right? Yeah. So, like, right now when we're recording this, the holidays are coming up. Thanksgiving is coming up, Christmas. Is that any different in your family, you would say, than other families? Do you experience it different?
We'd much rather have people over to our house. So she's got her same, you know, her safe place, and just kind of knows the lay of the land. So we do tend to invite people.
Yeah,
and turn down other things that just wouldn't work to do it with if we don't have a babysitter for her.
Yeah. So is that something that you find people to understand easily? I mean, it's one way, it's like, oh, wow, they're still welcoming. Like, it's easy to come to their house and we'll just do it. Or are people sometimes, do they feel it might be a burden to actually come to your house again? It's like, hey, why don't you come over to our house? Like, I want to host this time, or I want to, you know, is that ever a point of conversation? Does that come up? Or is it just because you now know that it is this way? It just is this way.
I think if they know Jubilee, they'd love to have us come to their house. It's just maybe easier on us to be able to have conversation if she can go to her bedroom or go to the bath while we finish talking at our house.
Yeah.
But they'd be very accommodating and no problem.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of parents where they would say, it's easier if people would come to my house than invite me to come for coffee somewhere or to go somewhere, even though I would love to go there.
Yeah.
It's just not working. Or even the thought of going to a beach on a Saturday, you know, joining you for a certain outing, makes me tired already because I am already tired. And then having to pack up everything and do all the planning. It's like, I would be more rested if you could actually just come over to my house.
Yeah.
You said that very well.
It's like that at least that's what I've heard from people, where it's sometimes that adjustment of like, oh, I would just hope that I could go with this friend, do something, but actually understanding like that doing something for them is not as restful as it would be for me, being an outsider, even, you know, being a friend and having quite a number of friends with where either they have the special needs or the child has, you know, some kind of special needs. So yeah, it's kind of that adjustment of how do we do that? What can I do to help them best? And then sometimes it is actually coming to their house multiple times instead of them coming to my house. And then maybe just be like, hey, you know, can I help bring food?
Yeah, that's good.
You know, like those kind of practical things. I think that would be something. What other things would you say, like if friends come over to your house, what would you appreciate them doing? Or like if people that listen and watch this, what can they do?
I think that was, you hit a big one. Like, can I bring dinner and hang out and, you know, and as long as, so if you were going to come to our house and you came with an attitude of, you know, it's okay that if we get interrupted or, you know, you have to, you know, duck out for 10 or 15 minutes and, you know, come back, just the reassurance of, I'm okay, I understand, and I'm going to be fine. Like, don't, you know, other people, we try to be, you try and host. So to have a good friend come over and, you know, you don't have to do the hosting role as to quite a degree.
Perfectly, yeah.
Yeah, that it feels a little bit more like, you know, we're just friends, we're just family. That's huge, just the emotional part, because then you can have
That kind of freedom.
yeah.
And if they've been over one time before and they know Jubilee and she maybe recognizes her voice, if they just treat her like a regular child and love on her, talk to her, hug her, do stuff that we might do, that's a big, and I know that you got to be comfortable with that, but that's a big help for us too.
Yeah, that would be like that feeling comfortable, which maybe people feel right away, or maybe some people are like, oh, that's kind of scary. Have you ever had people that just really bravely upfront asked certain questions? And what were those questions?
Like concerning Jubilee, or
yeah, or concerning your family, like what that looks like?
I think probably it's more of people who are in the same kind of environment and they experience Jubilee, then they'll just go, so what does she like to do? Or people tend to ask questions sort of sideways, or you know, come at something sideways, which is great. I don't know that people.
No, but I think that's a really good question, because I don't think they actually ask questions, well, how do you cope with it, or what do you do, have to do special, or how is your life different because of this? I don't think we actually get that except from therapists.
Oh, that's a good one for me. It's like I think that your life is different.
Yeah.
Where maybe actually it's just it's your norm, and it is normal.
But there is accommodations and things we don't get to do because of her disabilities or her special needs. But I guess we're just used to it, so that's just the way life rolls.
One of the questions I sent you before was like a favorite memory of, you know, with a stranger. You already said like Jubilee loves to hug and just greet strangers.
No, she loves it, but especially, well, here's the story that's so cool. She's a connector, and she also likes peace.
We tend to go to Trader Joe's. It's right down the road for just picking up groceries and stuff. So there was a wonderful lady named Maggie who used to work at Trader Joe's, and Jubilee just recognized she had a very kind voice, and Maggie engaged Jubilee. Like, well, hey, what's your name? Jubilee. Oh, Jubilee, that's wonderful. How's your day going? Or you just intentionally engaging her, not just me. So Jubilee decided, oh, she's very friendly. I like her. So she just leaned over and gave her a hug across the counter. And that was her way of saying, I like you. I want to hug you. And Maggie was sweet. So then every time we would go in and she would ask for Maggie, and So we would go to Maggie's checkout line, and Maggie would come out and say, "Oh, Jubilee, can I give you a hug?" And so Jubilee would hug, and then Jubilee would pull me, "Give mommy a hug." So then I'm forever hugging Maggie, the checkout lady at Trader Joe's, every time.
They're treating her like a regular human being. They're not going through us to get to
Right.
her.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that's even like that directly to Jubilee versus going through either Susan or you, like that even like what happens in the store when it's when people just do normal is actually then experienced almost as special.
Yep.
Unfortunately, like, and it would be great if it's more that way.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
At least that would be my dream world, if we would have more people comfortable just greeting and just talking straight to Jubilee versus kind of taking this extra.
And as that happens, and as Jubilee is she, by the way, Jubilee's trying to walk in off the trampoline.
That's great. That's great.
We gotta go get her. She's trying to find her way in the house. She can't see where she's going. It means a lot to us, but that also challenges Jubilee then. First of all, it helps her feel like she's regular human being. Because she the more older she gets, the more she realizes she's different, and the more her developmental capacity is going higher and higher. She realizes it. So when they treat her that way, that makes her feel special. And then she can try to answer better, and she'll learn how to answer if somebody asks her instead of us coaching her.
So that's a very important key. Like, just talk to the individual, talk to the person instead of talk to the parent.
Even if the person can't really respond back, at least give the honor to the person to try to see if they could answer you back.
The other thing it's really taught us is to value her. I was taught us great lessons about her, about us, about people in general, valuing, not based on what she's capable of, not what she can do, and not, this is who she is, see who she is, not who she isn't, or even what she needs, but there's just so much in her. She's just a joy. She's just, even in her quirkiness, the same things that could be really frustrating. Sometimes I go, okay, give me eyes, God, to see this differently. And then it changes things around. So I think part of it is, in the waiting or the not yet, to be aware of what there is, not being so aware of what she doesn't have, what we don't have. And part of that is just the thankfulness and celebrating her, which she's really good about celebrating herself.
She's a pro at making declarations over herself, or making sure we do that. We build her up, because that's what we've done all of our life. But also, when we start losing focus, she'll bring us back with declarations that we forgot we used to make, that she remembers and she still says.
Yeah. So and if she does anything well, oh, good job, Jubilee, good job. Oh, you're amazing. You're phenomenal. You're outstanding and astounding. And she just builds herself up. And I thought, boy, if everybody walked around like she does.
That would be a great lesson.
I rock.
Yeah, that would be great. So would you say that you've also learned from her?
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
And she keeps us on track because of her joy and her declarations that we forgot we used to make.
And I think also learning just to be courageous. Like she'll do stuff and she's willing to try, and she's willing to face stuff that is not so fun because she trusts us. So the whole idea of, it's okay to step into things that are a little uncomfortable or that you don't really want to do. Yeah, we've learned a lot about trust from her.
That's great lessons. That's great that you see, like, oh, she's not just someone that maybe the outside world can see, like, oh, that's just someone that has needs, and there's someone that maybe we should feel sorry for, or that's someone that we should help only, or that we should, like, all these kind of, this is how you classify a person, versus, oh, wait, I can actually see a person that has unique skill sets, that has a lot of joy to bring, that has valuable lessons that I can learn from just being around and just being a friend with her, I'm actually going to be a richer person.
Yep.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, very good. And we Susan's better at this, maybe you want to say it, but when people come up to us and say, "Oh, I just thank you for adopting a special needs child," what do you say to them?
Yeah. Oh no, she's a gift to us. And that's not just a line. That's the truth. She's such a gift to us. And so
we don't want pity from people. We're not anything special by taking her on. We wanted her, we have her, she's wonderful.
And she doesn't feel sorry for herself.
Because she's astounding.
Yeah, I think we should all do that, right? Like every now and then, I have done really good today.
That's
like,
right.
yes, like, oh, I did that really well. Like, oh yes, instead of like, oh, I shouldn't say that about myself too loud because, you know, people might think I'm proud. I think that's a great lesson we can all learn from Jubilee. Like, be proud of yourself. Tell yourself what you've done well today.
Because God's proud of us.
Yeah. And just speak words of hope and life and love over yourself, right? Because at least that sounds like what she's doing most of the time.
And assume that people are just going to love you.
Yeah, that's
like go on that.
Wow.
People love me. They want to say hi. They want to love me.
That's I think that's a great one, that not everyone believing about themselves, right? Or believing about the people that you meet. Like, oh wait, this person's just going to love me. It's like, there's no other way. There's no other option. Like, of course I'm going to hug them.
And unless they prove it otherwise, I'm going to assume they adore me.
Yeah. Have you ever, for that purpose or in a way, invited Jubilee to the group that you lead of students?
Oh, she comes quite often with Susan. And Susan, because I love having Susan there, but sometimes her Jubilee's off school or sick or someone, Susan brings her with. And the students are wonderful to love on her, and it's a beautiful example of a mother-father's love for someone who is special needs.
In terms of bringing her intentionally for the purpose of like offering her strengths,
we need to do that.
We can do a lot more of that. We definitely do ask her to give them a hug if they're talking about something and they're sad, and she is so ready to do that. She's
that's great.
So
no, but that you're helpful to us to see those two points, at least this and assume everybody loves you. That could be a teaching point with her as one who does it with her. Yeah.
Sounds like Jubilee has kind of that openness and is willing to just meet people and to encounter them and just be like, hey, awesome, new people. I'm gonna love on you. I'm gonna give you a hug.
Yep.
And let's make great friends. So to young parents, what would you say that are now just embarking on this process of, oh wait, our family is going to maybe look a little different than we expected it to look like? I would assume that there has been a moment where you kind of were like, oh wait, what are we finding ourselves like? What is this autism going to look like? What is that going to do to our, like, what do we need to do? What are the answers? What are the solutions? What would you say to parents that are up against that right now?
Yeah, I think there was definitely a transition time as we really hit that reality of, things are not going to look the same. So I would say give yourself a lot of grace for the transition. It's a very real thing. There is a process. There is a grieving process of what you thought things were going to be to what it looks like going forward. So there's no shame in that. So embrace that process and know that that you will get on the other side of that. And that there are so many things that if you choose to embrace the positive things, there's so much. There's a richness that other people may not have a chance to experience. So just look for that and embrace that. And I think we touched on this a little bit, but there's no need to no, let me back up. If you, I just encourage young parents to treat their child like the treasure that they are, and to expect other people to treat them that way. And like Jubilee taught us, just assume people will like them, but they might need some help in knowing how to know them, how to
show that,
react, engage, how to have relationship. But assume that people's hearts are good and that they will want to engage, and then help them know how to do that in a very positive way, so that the child never feels like they are in any way, less than the person in front of them.
And I think two other things we've talked about already, but in different contexts would be ask God for the grace to see the gold in the child, even though there might be long nights or long days or routines that get messed up, or things you can't do because you have a handicapped child, a special needs child. See the gold of what he or she's teaching you, and what they're just what they carry, what gifts they carry. The other thing would be, if it's available, get with a special needs a community group or accountability group, or what do you call it, support group that you can share and cry with, and share the funny stories and the devastating stories, so hey, we're not in this alone.
I think that community is probably really really key. And is that something that works when it's started by someone who is not necessarily themselves a special needs parent, or would that feel odd, or like, oh, I'm some project that needs help? Or
yeah, that's good.
I think it all depends on the attitude with which it's presented. Someone who just says, hey, I just am championing you guys, and I want to facilitate you connecting, and honestly, it can be hard for somebody. People are wired differently.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's hard for people who are like, if they are putting all of their energy into raising their family, raising their kids, to take on that concept of how do I coordinate people? That means I've got to plan stuff. That means
running a group.
Yeah, like that's sometimes that's a hard responsibility. So I think people are just happy to have help to connect.
But it would be helpful, I think, and probably the person wouldn't do it without this. Helpful to have at least a little experience with a grandchild or a neighbor child or a therapist that has a little bit of knowledge of some of the things they're going through. They could just facilitate the group, but I think it helps.
Yeah, it's that I want to help and I want to offer this, but not just because of feeling sorry or feeling like I should do this for you. Because there's no need to feel sorry. No. There might be moments where it's like, oh, but it's more of the individual, because there's actually a hard week. Like any family will have difficult weeks, and not just assume that all of life is hard because of.
That's good. That's a good word.
I think that's sometimes what from the outside, like, I don't know what it looks like in America or in English, but I know that sometimes in the Netherlands, where I'm from, like, some people will say like, oh, it's just the poor child or the sorry child, or I feel so sorry for them, or like kind of in the wording where it's like, no, this is actually a person that has great joy and that has strengths, like everyone else has strengths, and our strengths aren't all individually different.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm good at is my neighbor is not as good at, and I bring the cake to the party and the other one helps cleaning up, because we're both different, we're wired different, and that's what we bring, and that's what we give to our community, and that's what we give to our friends, right? In closing, what would you say to like people that want to engage more with families like yours? Where to begin? What to do?
Bring us food. Just kidding.
That's real.
But it is real, and it's a very practical thing, right? It's just like, hey, can I bring you food? And who wouldn't like that? I would like that.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Just to start with, reaching out, just saying, hey, I just want to bless you, or I want to connect with you. I like you guys. Definitely, avoid, I feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
So a good place to start totally is hey, how can I connect with you? And then just don't be afraid to ask the questions about, what's helpful, what's not helpful. How do I, and ask, how can I connect with your child? And what do I need to know? What do I need to know about you? And a special needs family, this is our reality, so we're not ashamed of it. But for someone to say, hey, I want to enter your world, show me how. That's such a huge blessing, and it places a value, and it just feels like they're really valuing and honoring us. So just being real, and also I think that assume that we're going to be gracious enough to overlook any like stumbling if you say handicap and that's not the right term or whatever, that we're not going to shut you off. And so don't be afraid of, making missteps or, awkward moments. So
and I thought of one other thing that we haven't actually touched on, is if there's other kids in the family who aren't special needs or whatever, to maybe, not because they got to feel sorry for them or us, but maybe do some special things with them if the family can't do that because of how much special needs the child is. Maybe do some special things with the other kids, or connect with the kids so they don't feel like all the attention goes to the one who is special needs. That could be a whole subject in itself.
That can be a series of conversations as well, again, right? In the brothers and sisters, and because especially when there's a situation where there's multiple therapists coming to the house, or like people, and it's always about the sister, it's always about the brother, and it's never about them,
right?
To actually just first have that attention and first focus there, and also pay, like, and just be like, hey, how was your day? Like, what did you do in school? And just ask those kind of questions. And I love that what you said, Susan's like, hey, I want to enter your world. Can you show me how? I think that's going to be a great one, even for me to use forward, like as I'm going forward, like, hey, how can we enter your world? And please show us how. Like, please show the world how. We can make assumptions, but we need to ask questions to actually learn. And I think just not assuming is probably one of the great first starters, and just asking questions instead, and listening, and bringing food. Very practical. I mean, that's a great one. And that's a very, very practical one that I think a lot of people can do. And you can actually just start connection there and start friendship there. And
I was actually kidding, but I think that is because if there's a special needs child in the house, and if it's the traditional family, or maybe both parents work, but then you have to somehow figure out how can that child be taken care of while mom or dad cooks.
So thank you guys. I mean, I feel like we could already continue conversations for a long time, but I don't want to keep you any longer from your family.
Your interest in this, you are a very good interviewer, if I may say so, because you ask questions off of comments that you didn't plan to ask that were very, very meaningful.
Thank you. Well, my interest is genuine. Like, I'm mostly here to learn myself, and not necessarily, it's going to be beneficial for others as they were going to listen and look at those videos and listen to the audio. But I'm very first in it. Like, I want to learn, and I want to hear the stories and not assume, and just build friendships and build relationships with people that go beyond what I think I know, because there's just a whole lot that I'm like, oh, wow, that's a different perspective already. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.